I hope you're all well. Today I am here to talk to you about my best books of 2023. Now you will notice the date is in December when I am doing this. This does mean that anything that I read from this point onwards that may have fit into this category will probably move into next year's category. I wanted to try and get a head start on some of my end of year, beginning of year content this year. So I have decided to do my best books early. You also have my most disappointing and DNFs coming early, and then I am doing a best of the rest as well. So like any other 5-star reads I feel like need to be noted. But this is just my top 10 of the year and I'm really excited. There is such a nice selection here in this. We have some middle grade, we've got some thrillers, we've got some romance, we've got some fantasy, we have some romantasy, we have a graphic novel in here as well. So it's a really nice collection and I'm very excited to talk to you about them. So we are going to go in reverse. We're going to start at 10 and finish with 1 because I feel like that's a good way to do this. And let me know in the comments down below if you guess what my favourite book of the year is, or any of the books that could be featured in this list. If you see me looking over in this direction, it's because I've got my computer on next to me with everything that I rated and my list of books, even though they're here next to me. That's not the point. That's what I'm looking at. So we are going to start off with the book in 10th place, and it is a middle grade. It is one that I have read very recently and really loved, and it is Stepfather Christmas by L.D. Lipinski. This got a 9.29 rating on Core and a 5 stars. Obviously all of these books are 5 stars, but I'm going to give you the Core rating as well so that you can see what kind of rating it actually got on Core. If you don't know what Core is, it is a rating system that G from Book Roast has made that helps you try and decide what you would rate your books based on characters, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic and enjoyment. So it helps break it down for you a little bit. I always struggle to rate my books. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll go, that was really good and I absolutely loved it, but I don't know if I just felt that 5 stars or not. So sometimes Core is a really good way of helping you rate your books, and sometimes you go through it and you go, no, I think it deserved more than that. So you end up altering your rating a little bit, or less than that. You end up altering your rating a little bit. But anyway, Stepfather Christmas by L.D. Lipinski I read very recently in a cozy festive vlog in which I read both romance and middle grades, and I had a fantastic time with this one. This has got the sprayed edges with the Santa and the reindeer. This is honestly the only reason I picked this book up. So I truly enjoyed this one. We are following a young girl called Harper whose mum sits her down not too long before Christmas and her brother to tell them that she is dating someone, and he will be coming round that evening so that they can meet him. His name is Nick, and immediately Harper thinks he has some resemblance to Santa. And there is lots of things that happen in this that have you in your mind thinking, nah, this man's not Santa, it's just a coincidence. And then there's other things happening that are going, no, he definitely is Santa. And honestly, it's just such a good, feel-good, festive book. I had a fantastic time with it. It's also laid out in such a way that you could actually read this as like an Advent book, so you could read a chapter a day. There are 25 chapters, and L.D. Lipinski does encourage that at the beginning of the book. So I did think about putting this down and picking something else up to do that, but it was already too late by then because I was partway through the month. But overall, I absolutely love this. It's a fantastic read, and if you're looking for middle grade festive books to put on your TBR for 2024, I would highly recommend this one. This was so good. So yeah, this is in 10th place. Then in 9th place with a 9.43 rating on Core it is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. You may have heard me talking about this ever since I read it. This was absolutely fantastic. I read this when in one evening one sitting. I read it, and I was going picking my parents up from the airport at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So I settled down at maybe 7, 8 o'clock, and I was like, you know what, I need to stay up. There's no point going to bed. I need to stay up before I go and pick my parents up. So let's try and smash as far as I can through this book. And I ended up reading the whole thing before I went to go and get my parents. My friend Caitlin had read it the night before, so I think the combination of reading such a good book but also being able to talk back and forth with someone about it, she did eventually go to sleep partway through, but I did send her all of my thoughts and my suspicions despite the fact she'd gone to sleep so that she could read them all in the morning. It just made this reading experience like 10 times better, and it was already a good reading experience. I would highly recommend this book. This book follows a woman whose son is running late coming home one night, and she's stood in the window kind of looking out for him. She's wondering where he is, wondering why he's not called or text, and then she sees him coming down the street and she's got relief. And then all of a sudden, right outside her house, she witnesses her son murder another man on the street, and she can't figure out what the hell has gone on. They all get taken down to the station, her husband, her son, and then the following morning, once she's gone home and everything with her husband, the following morning she wakes up and everything seems normal. Her son is back at home. Nobody seems worried about anything. She can't figure out why they don't know what she's talking about when she's asking him, how are you home? Why did they let you go? Blah, blah, blah. And then she realizes it's the day before, the day the incident happened. And she's confused. She doesn't understand what's going on. And then she ends up keep going back in time. And the time that she goes back in, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's a year. And until she goes way, way back. And she eventually she figures out that what she's supposed to be doing is to try and figure out why this has happened, how her son has ended up in this situation, and what made him do what he did, and can she stop it. We also get the perspective of a detective as well. I think he's a detective or a cop as well in here, and it all ties in together so well. I think some of my predictions were correct. Not all of them were, and I loved this. It was so good. It was so intriguing. It had me hooked from the first page, and I could not put it down. This is one of those books that you can read in one sitting. I'm fairly certain I've done a video on that. If I have, I'll leave a link to it up here, and I'm fairly certain this book was in there. But you can read it in one sitting. So intriguing. It will have you hooked. It will have its tender hooks in you. Highly recommend. It was so freaking good. 9th place. Next, with the same rating of 9.43, it was really difficult to decide which one should go above the other with these two. To be honest, they're interchangeable. But we have another thriller, and it is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I'd read both of these at a very similar time, and I was like, oh my god, look at me go. I'm picking up two really good thrillers like around the same time. And I think it was in this moment that I realised I was really in my thriller era, and I have been this year, and I really want to be picking up more thrillers. I used to be the type of person that would save thrillers and horrors. I didn't read a lot of horror, to be honest, but thrillers and horrors I would save for October, and then the month would come and go, and then I wouldn't pick them up again. And I think December makes sense for festive reads, but to save your thrillers and horrors for October is such a shame. And I think I have gotten to a point now where I know to just pick them up. If I'm in the mood for a thriller, just pick it up. Middle of May, pick a thriller up. It does not matter. You can pick thrillers up any time of the year, especially on the basis that some of them are seasonal. You can get summer thrillers, you can get winter thrillers, you can get, you know, really good thrillers for October. So I have come to the conclusion now that I should be picking my thrillers up all year round and not saving them for October. October is 1 month. You cannot read all of the thrillers in 1 month. But yeah, I truly loved this book. This was so good. It was my first Alice Feeney. Similarly, this was my first Gillian McAllister. And since then, I am very excited to find out if they are going to be new auto-buy authors for me. So far, they have been. This one follows Daisy, obviously, Daisy Darker, who goes to an island where her grandmother lives that at certain times of the day becomes very isolated because the sea comes over the road and you can't get in and out of the island. So she goes to her grandmother's on this island. There's no other people that live on this island, really. And she goes there with her family because it's her grandmother's birthday. Now, very early on in this book, her grandmother ends up dying, and it's quite a shock to the family, etc, etc. She's very confused, she can't understand what's going on, and then slowly but surely the rest of the family is being picked off one by one, and the idea is to try and figure out who exactly is doing it. The twists and turns in this book, let me tell you, again, I read this in one sitting, I couldn't put it down. It was so, I've got chills just now thinking about it. And the minute I got to the reveal, it wasn't even right at the end. The minute I got to the reveal, I wanted to start again to see if I could pick up on anything. This was so good, and I would never have predicted in a million years what was going to happen in this book and the plot twist. I would not have seen it coming in a million years. Either of the plot twists, to be honest, any of them. I wouldn't have seen them coming. This was so good, and I highly recommend it. It's not very often I would go back and reread a thriller, but this is definitely one of them that I would reread, because now that I know the twists and turns, it would be really interesting to see if I could pick up on that now that I know them. This was fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. 8th place. Then in 7th place we do have Romance with 9.57 on Core Pile, and it is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I immediately wanted to go into Yours Truly, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet this year, so I am hoping that I will get to that in 2024, because she does have a new release coming out in 2024. But I really love this. Listen, Abby Jimenez can do no wrong. This is the 4th book of hers that I've read, and all of them have had 5 stars. I adore her writing, and I adore her. She is fantastic. She can do no wrong. I don't know if there is many authors out there that I've read that I have only given 5 stars to. I'm trying to think now. Even one of my favourite all-time authors, Lindsay Kelk, there was a point at which I'd only given 5 stars to her books, but that is no longer the case. So 4 books in, and I've given everything 5 stars. This was so good. We're following Alexis Montgomery, whose family is very wealthy. They're all doctors, and she is expected to carry this legacy on. Now, she is an ER doctor, and she's very happy with that, but they want her to be a surgeon. You know, they want her to be the top of the top, the best of the best. She's not bothered about that. She's quite happy just being a surgeon. And she ends up going to this small town one day. I can't remember the reason behind why she went, to be honest, whether it was just a vacation or something. I think it was a vacation. She goes to this small town and ends up meeting Daniel. Now, she has a fling with Daniel, a one-night stand, but things end up becoming a little bit more than that. They end up going on a couple of dates. They end up seeing each other a little bit more. She ends up going back and visiting again. But she is worried about how Daniel fits in her life. He's 10 years her senior, so you know, he's a toy boy, and he's got a very different life to what she has. Obviously, lots of money, very rich, very good career. He doesn't have lots of money. He's got his own career, but it's not, you know, her parents would look down on him and all of that shit. And she's wondering how these two come together, how she doesn't let her family down, but she's also with Daniel and does what she wants to do. And it's just really good. It's about her finding herself and finding her own voice and following her own heart instead of following what her parents want her to do, as well as this relationship with Daniel where they are two quite polar opposites, quite frankly. But it's such a good book. I think this book had me sobbing, if I remember correctly. It was so good, and I really enjoyed it. Abby Jimenez can do no wrong. I just love her. So yeah, this was book number 7. Book number 6 with 9.57 as well was Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. This had to be on here, of course. I truly loved this. This was a prequel to Legends and Lattes, and I absolutely adored it. In this one, we are following Viv, and she is an orc, and she is out on the battlefield fighting. She ends up getting injured. She gets taken by her team to this small town where they say to her, look, rest up, we will carry on with the rest of the mission, and we're on our way back through, we will come and pick you up. It might be a couple of weeks, it might be a couple of months, we're not sure how long it's going to take, but you need to rest up, you can't come with us. And she's really resistant. She wants to carry on, but she truly cannot. She's very injured. So she ends up holed up in this very small town in which she is staying in a pub, and she is, you know, people give her funny looks. It's very bizarre. However, she ends up finding herself in this situation where she ends up in a bookshop that's in the town, making friends with the bookshop owner, and she also ends up making friends with the bakery owner as well. In fact, there's a kind of little relationship going on there, and it's absolutely adorable. And this is just the coziest of cozy fantasies. I absolutely love it. Legends and Lattes was the coziest of cozy fantasies, and this was right up there with it, and it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it so much. It felt like a warm hug. It felt just perfect, absolutely perfect. There was nothing wrong with this, and I truly loved it. And it was so nice to go back to Viv, even though she was the only character that, like, from Legends and Lattes. It was so nice to go back to her and get some backstory with her. And I would not be mad if Travis Baldry went back and visited Viv again and gave us some more stories from her, because I really love her, and I love the stories that come with her as well. It's so good. So I would highly recommend it. This is the, what edition is this? Waterstones edition? Yeah, Waterstones edition. It's absolutely beautiful. On the inside you do get the original artwork as well. And it's just a beautiful book, and I would highly recommend it. And that is book 6 on my list. Book number 5 was my top book for quite a while actually on this list, but obviously I've read some more stuff since then that's overtaken it. But it did get a 9.71 on Core Pile, and that is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I freaking loved this. This was so good. It was not what I was expecting, but it was really good. We're following Florence Day, who's a ghostwriter for a very well-known author. However, one day she is going to her editor to see if she can get an extension on the book that she's supposed to be writing. It's supposed to be basically given in very soon, and she hasn't even started it. She's got writer's block. She's really struggling. The author that she's a ghostwriter for is a romance author, but she has no romance in her life. She thinks that romance is dead, so she's got no inspiration and she's got complete writer's block. However, she's got a new editor called Benji, who's very strict and very hot, and he refuses to give her an extension. He's no idea she's the ghostwriter. He thinks she's just the PA for the author. So he refuses to give her the extension. I think she's got like 3 days left or something. And then she goes home in a complete panic about this book, and she starts to try to write something, and so she gets a knock on the door, and it's Benji. However, he's dead, and she can see him. And they are trying to figure out what exactly has gone on, why she can see dead people. It turns out Florence's family runs a mortuary, and it's kind of a thing that's been in their family. And it's just so beautiful. It's such a good book. I really loved it. I love the writing style. Again, I think this was one that I might have read in one sitting. It was just so good, and I just adored it. I sobbed reading this book. It got me in the feels so bad, but I absolutely loved it. It was such a good read, and I was obsessed with it. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It's absolutely stunning inside and under the dust jacket. Just such a beautiful edition of this book, and I'm so glad that I got it. I got it on a whim actually, because I hadn't read it at that point. So I got it on a whim, and I'm so glad that I did, because it was so good, and it got number 5 in my list. Number 4 also got 9.71, and it is Juniper Hill by Devney Perry, which is part of the Eden series. This is book 2 in the Eden series, if I remember correctly. Yes, and in this one we follow Memphis Ward, who is running away from her old life, and she comes to Quincy because she has got a job with the Edens, I think in the hotel that Eloise runs, and she is going to be a cleaner. Now she has a baby, she's running away from her old life for reasons with her little girl, and she needs a place to stay. She's gotten this job already, and one of the Edens basically suggests that she moves in to a loft that is on Knox's land. So he's got a house there, and then he's got a garage with a loft above it that is kind of been renovated and is kind of like a spare place for them all to stay. But one of the sisters suggests that she moves in with Knox in the loft. He's not happy about it, He likes his own space, he likes his own privacy, however he lets it happen. He can see that this woman is quite distressed and she's in a lot of bother and she needs somewhere to stay, so he allows it to happen. Slowly but surely, these two end up building up a relationship. The baby obviously is a newborn. It gets to a point where the baby stops sleeping and is crying through the night, and Memphis is trying to do this new job, but she's up all night with the baby and she's really struggling, and Knox, slowly but surely, his ice cold heart starts to melt and he starts helping her out. I think the thing that I love about these books the most is that there is a darker aspect to each of them. So in the first one, in Juniper Hill, there is a series of suicides in them that may or may not be suicides, and in this one there is a darker aspect to it. I cannot tell you what that is at all because it will spoil it. I didn't know what it was going in, and I think that that side of it, plus the relationship between Knox and Memphis, really pushed this up there for me because I loved Indigo Ridge. I truly loved it, but this one, another level. It was so good. I love Devney Perry's writing style. I love these books. I'm having the best time going through them. So far, the third one is my least favorite. I think it got 4.5 stars, which was Garnet Flats, but Indigo Ridge and Juniper Hill have both gotten 5 stars, and I truly love these books. So yeah, this is the 4th book on my list. Then again, at 9.71, we do have a graphic novel, and this one is Everything Is Okay by Debbie Tung. I really love this. So I've read most of Debbie Tung's books, especially Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, which I really like. And Debbie Tung essentially takes real life things from her life, her anxiety and depression, and she puts them down on pen to paper and turns them into graphic novels. And they're really good. They're all very relatable slides with very relatable things, especially if you suffer with anxiety and depression, and they are incredible. I saw myself so much in this, not just with my anxiety and depression, but also with my ADHD, which is surprising because I'm not even sure if Debbie Tung has ADHD or is neurodivergent in any way, but I saw my neurodivergency in this a lot, and this hit home for me massively. I think I was crying pretty much from page 1 right through to the end. I was sobbing all the way through this. It really hit home for me, and it's such a beautiful book, and I would highly recommend it. All of her graphic novels are really beautiful. The illustrations are very good, the meaning behind them are stunning, and they will really hit home for you. But I think the main thing to take away from these is that you are not alone, and everything is going to be okay. You will be okay. You aren't alone, and I think that's the most important thing. It's really nice to kind of see it in black and white, literally, that you are not the only person going through this, and there are other people suffering with this, and you're not alone. Sometimes I don't know if that's a comfort or not, because you know how it feels. You don't want other people to be going through it, but also it is a comfort to know you're not the only one, you know? Do you know what I mean? My empathy comes through massively with things like this, and I sit there and I think to myself, I cannot believe other people are going through this, and I wish I could take their pain away, even though I am in pain myself right now. So yeah, I truly love this, and it ended up with the 3rd spot in this top 10. It really needed a mention, and I really loved it. So yeah, okay, we're down to the final 2. Really excited. Book number 2 with 9.71 as well. So this has had the same rating as the last 3 books, but I just freaking loved it, and it needed to be second. If the book that was in first wasn't first, this would be first. Obviously. You'll see in a moment, but it is Heartless by Elsie Silver, the second in the Chestnut Springs series. I freaking love this series. Flawless was so good, and I didn't believe people when they said, yeah, but wait till you get to Heartless, because honestly, chef's kiss. I loved this so much. I've been reading these books during my 24-hour readathons, like reading challenges, and I've been having a blast with them because I just plow my way through the books, and that's the only way I would like to consume these in future, because I absolutely love them. So in this one we are following Willa, who is the best friend of Summer from the first book, and we are also following Cade Easton, who is a single dad. I was already very excited for this. Willa ends up becoming Cade's nanny. So he is trying to bring up his daughter as well as be a, you know, working father and do all of these other things that he's trying to do as well as live his own life. And he was struggling. And his, was it Summer or his brother that suggested that he needed to get a nanny, and he was having none of it. He wasn't happy about this situation. He was like, I don't need a nanny, I can do it all myself, I don't know what you're talking about. Then Willa comes in and she's like, listen, I'll be a nanny for you. And he's like, no, I don't need a nanny. He also was very attracted to her, so did not think that that was a good idea. However, she ends up becoming his live-in nanny, and you can see where this is going. The angst between Willa and Cade was insane. This book was so good. The angst between them, the sexual tension between them, just the plot line and everything. I just freaking loved this. So much so that I have already picked my Cade Easton, and if anybody else says any differently, you are wrong. If this gets turned into a movie, which it should do, or even a TV series, which it should do, you're missing out if you don't, let me tell you. My Cade Easton is Cole Hauser. Specifically, listen, you've probably heard me say this about 5 times now. Specifically Cole Hauser from Yellowstone as Rip. That's it. Rip is Cade Easton. There is literally no other option for Cade Easton. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I like this game. Prove me wrong, I dare you. This book was so good. I absolutely loved it. Top tier. Chef's kiss, top notch. Elsie Silver, I will read everything you write. Loved it. Loved it. My favourite one so far. I will say this is as far as I've got with this series. I do need to continue, so that could change, but my favourite one in the series so far. It was so good. And then last, but by no means least, in first place with 9.86 from Core Pile. Any guesses? Drop your guesses down below now. We have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Of course it's Fourth Wing. I am wearing my Zayden Ryerson sweater. I loved this. I will say, I am not as hooked with Iron Flame as I was with this, which is a huge shame. I'm still making my way through it. Whether or not I finish it by the end of the year, I don't know, but I don't reckon it would make the top 10 anyway. But Fourth Wing knocked it out of the park. I love this. This was fantastic. I wasn't expecting to do so. I don't think anyone was expecting this book to be as much of a hit as it is, but it was so good. We're following Violet, who is a young girl, and she is in this world. There are dragons and there are 4 quadrants within it, like within the place where they live. So she is a scribe, and that's all she's ever wanted to be. She wanted to follow in her dad's footsteps. Violet has like brittle bones. She's very small for her age. She's got brittle bones. She's quite weak, and she can get injured very easily. However, her mother, who I think it could quite frankly be a sadist and is a little bit psychotic, has decided that Violet should be in the Riders Quadrant, which means that you ride the dragons and you fight on the front line, which makes total sense for Violet, you know? So everyone anticipates that Violet is going to die during the tournaments in order to get, you know, to pass, to get to the Riders Quadrant. Everyone assumes she's going to die. However, Violet is quite the dark horse, let me tell you. Despite the fact that she has brittle bones and she can get injured very easily, and she does very regularly, this girl has got some stamina about her. She has got some strength about her, both mentally and physically, I will say, and she is a force to be reckoned with, and I am obsessed with her. I absolutely love her. Despite her disability, she plows on, she gets the job done. She's not happy about being part of the Riders Quadrant to start off with, but she gets the fucking job done and she nails it, and I absolutely love her. She's my hero of 2023. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking love her. So she manages to pass the tournaments, she ends up in the Riders Quadrant, she bonds with her dragon, and it all goes from there. There is also Zayden Ryerson, who I have just mentioned. I am apparently property of him now, and They have a tumultuous relationship because there is some past going on with their families. I don't want to tell you what that is because it will spoil it, but there is a past with their families and they have quite the tumultuous relationship. Maybe enemies to lovers, I don't know if I would go that far with it, but definitely, you know, dislike between the two of them. That all changes. For reasons. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but that all changes, and I fucking love this book. I did start off and get around maybe 50 or 100 pages into it and then put the book down for a couple of months. Once I came back to it, I ploughed through it. Absolutely ploughed through it. Maybe a day or two, but I nailed this book and it was so fucking good. I loved the world building. I loved the romance in this. Again, I loved the angst and the sexual tension between the characters. I love the way the dragons are weaved in and everything that's attached to the dragons and the riders and all of that good stuff. I just loved it. The tournament section of it, very brutal but very, very good. The whole school academia aspect of it as well. I just fucking loved it, and like I say, Violet is my hero of 2023. She's fucking incredible and I love her. I absolutely love her. This was so, so good. And I know that it's going to be on a lot of people's favourites for the year. So it's maybe not surprising that this is on here. And you probably know the synopsis of it anyway. But I just wanted to tell you my love for it because it's important. It's also important to know that just because I love the first one does not mean I'm going to love the rest of the series. But regardless, this was fantastic. And I fucking loved it. It was so, so good. So yeah. Fourth Wing, my favourite book of the year. Were you surprised? Let me know in the comments. Were you surprised? Were you surprised at any of these from me? Were you expecting something else to be on this list? Let me know in the comments down below. I know, I'm fairly certain the majority of you will know that Wrong Place, Wrong Time and Daisy Darker and Heartless would have been on this list. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you were surprised at any of these, if you thought something else would be on here. Do you think I fucked up? Did I miss something? I will be doing a best of the rest kind of 2023 video in which I will chat to you about some of my other 5-star reads for the year. I'm not going to do all of my 5-star reads for the year, but I've done the majority of them in that next video, which are books that, you know, were very, very close to getting into the top 10 or just in general were 5-star reads for me, and I think they're worth a mention because they were really, really good. So that will be coming up in a couple of days and I hope you are looking forward to that. But the next video that will come up after this one is my most disappointing and DNFs, so you can look forward to that tomorrow. But I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, chat to me in the comments down below. What was your favourite book of the year? Are you anticipating any on my most disappointing on DNFs for next year, for tomorrow's video, sorry, for this year? And were you surprised at any of the books in this list? Did I fuck up and miss out on something? Chat to me in the comments down below and I shall see you in tomorrow's video. Bye for now.